Well, hello, family. Welcome back to our weekly conversation about the book of Romans. We're in a series right now called Unashamed, and we've been walking through chapter by chapter about what we referred to a couple weeks ago as like Paul's magnum opus, the text that he comes back to and lays all of his foundational beliefs about who Jesus was, about what he came to do, and the life that we get to experience on the other side of that. So this week we are in Romans chapter 5, and our key text is verses 1 and 2. It says, "Therefore, since we have been justified through faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ, through whom we have gained access by faith into this grace in which we now stand. And we boast in the hope of the glory of God." So I'm noticing as I'm reading this, there's this one line that feels like a continuation from some of the things we've been doing over the past couple of weeks. It's this phrase, "in this grace in which we now stand." What does Paul mean by we stand in grace? What's that all about?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great line in this. And of course, he starts out with the therefore. As we know, anytime there's a therefore, you need to pay attention. So he spent all this time kind of sharing with them, Jew and Gentile, how that you are saved by the same grace. You're saved by faith, by grace through faith. Right. And now he says, because of that, here's what you have. Number one, you have peace with God, through our Lord Jesus Christ. And then through whom we have gained access. And by the way, that's courtroom language, gained access. He says we have gained access by faith into this grace in which we now stand. So the picture is you have gained access into the throne room of God, throne room of grace, even if you will. And he says you now stand in that throne room of grace. So it's a picture of, the word stand there means to abide, to stay, to remain. So you have access through Jesus Christ into the throne room of grace, and you're not just passing through. You're not just there momentarily. So he's given them this idea that, when you are justified, when Christ saves you, you are then standing in grace. We often have the idea that grace is something that we fall in and out of, that it's shaky ground. And Paul's saying, no. What was shaky ground was before you came to Christ, when you were under law and not under grace. That's the shaky ground. But now that you have gained access, now that you've entered this throne room, grace's throne room, you are secure in grace. You live there now. And so it's this idea that because of what Jesus Christ did, because you're justified, you don't have to worry about being kicked out of the throne room every time that you sin, every time that you fall. This is where you live now. You live in the grace of God. And so it's this beautiful text teaching them, listen, you, Jew and Gentile, you're all standing on the same ground now, grace ground. That's where you all are standing. And so it's really good news for Jew and Gentile, and it levels the playing field. Again, that's what Paul has been doing.
Yeah, I love that. It feels like I was reading Colossians a couple of days ago, one of the studies we're doing with our students, and there's that phrase like rooted and established in love. And that feels very familiar to this. Like you have solid ground that now you're able to build from. Go back to Psalm 1, talking about being like planted by a stream of water, like you've got deep roots now. This feels sturdy. It feels solid, where we can like grow our roots down into the soil of grace and live there and not feel like you have to be pushed around.
It's this new posture. And of course, now that you are in the throne room of grace, you are there to, being in grace doesn't mean that you take sin lightly. Sure. Because if you're in the throne room of grace, that means you're listening to God. You're there with Him. You're actually being changed by grace because you're rooted, as you said, in grace. So it makes a difference in how you live as well.
Yeah, I would imagine that you have a different outlook on the world. You actually are probably looking at sin differently when you live from grace, because you see sin not as just like something that you're trying to, let me not slip up, let me not get this thing wrong, but now I'm living in light of a new reality. I'm living on solid foundation, to use Jesus' language in Matthew 7, and sin becomes something that wants to shake me, wants to stir me up, wants to make my foundation less solid.
Yeah, it's like Paul said in letter to Titus, that grace teaches us to say no to ungodliness and unrighteousness. The grace is actually a teacher, like you just said.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I love getting to walk through and even just little phrases, kind of diving deeper into some of the background of what Paul might have had in mind when he was writing a letter like this to the Romans. And I think we're going to start seeing a little bit of a turn over the next couple of chapters toward, okay, here's the truth of the gospel. Here's the beauty of grace. Here's this new foundation that you're living on. But what does that actually mean for your life? How does this change you? Paul's got a little bit more at the end of chapter 5 to say, hey, like there's a new reality that you're living into.
That's right. Here's how you live it.
So if you are engaging with this content at home, hopefully around a coffee table, maybe a dinner table with your family, you'll see some questions that we've created for you. You'll see them on the screen right now. It's just ways for you to go a little bit deeper, ways to dive into the scriptures together, to be centered around a common goal, which is looking more like Jesus as he's revealed through these pages. So our prayer is that this helps you take a step in that direction, that you are enabled and empowered to walk more closely with Jesus, to be formed by him through these conversations, and to do that with a group of people who can point you toward him, who can continually help you to grow in relationship with him and relationship with others. So that's our prayer for you. We look forward to seeing you next week as we dive into Romans chapter 6, and we will see you in the next one. Grace and peace, my friends.